This is Skies of Conflict, and tonight we're breaking down one of the most shocking developments in recent memory, a chain reaction of power politics, military strikes, and global consequences that has set Washington, Moscow, and the Middle East on edge. The world woke up to chaos as reports flooded in from the Red Sea and Arabian Peninsula. Yemeni forces, backed by a shadowy network of foreign support, launched a precision missile strike targeting a U.S. naval task group operating off the coast of Yemen. At first, the Pentagon dismissed it as another regional skirmish, another drone attack in a long list of provocations. But as data and radar signatures poured in, the story took a darker turn. The missiles weren't just Iranian knockoffs or Chinese clones, they were something else entirely, something with a Russian fingerprint. And that's when the story broke. Putin's bombshell exposed the attack missiles from the desert in the early morning hours. Satellite surveillance detected multiple projectiles rising from Yemeni territory, moving fast, and coordinated. The USS Mason, a guided missile destroyer in the area, activated its Aegis defense system, intercepting one incoming missile, but two others broke through the defense envelope, one striking near the carrier group and another exploding midair with what analysts describe as advanced proximity detonation technology. The shock wasn't the damage, it was the data. Fragments recovered later indicated components that matched a class of Russian-origin cruise missile parts previously catalogued in Syria and Crimea. This wasn't just another Houthi strike, it was a message, and that message had Putin's name written all over it. Moscow's silence speaks volumes. Hours after the incident, Russia's Ministry of Defense remained silent. No statements, no denials, no confirmations. And yet Russian state media began broadcasting segments highlighting the vulnerability of U.S. naval operations in the Red Sea, coincidentally quoting unnamed defense analysts claiming that Yemen's missile technology is evolving rapidly thanks to undisclosed partnerships. Western intelligence agencies immediately flagged the timing as suspicious, and within 24 hours intercepted communications hinted that Russian defense contractors had been operating out of facilities in northern Yemen months before the attack. Putin's silence was strategic. It was the kind of silence that amplifies power. Washington reacts. The Pentagon in panic mode. Inside the Pentagon, the mood was tense. The National Security Council convened an emergency meeting chaired by the president. Top advisors briefed the situation, and intelligence from CENTCOM painted an alarming picture. This wasn't a random act, it was an escalation. The U.S. Secretary of Defense called it a calculated probe into America's defensive posture in the Middle East. Officials privately admitted they were caught off guard. Satellite images showed heat signatures consistent with Russian technicians working alongside Yemeni missile crews months before the strike. Washington's allies demanded answers. NATO's command in Brussels began reviewing engagement protocols in the Mediterranean and the Red Sea. The question wasn't just who launched the missiles, but who programmed them. The technology connection. Russian fingerprints. Defense analysts dissected the missile's telemetry, discovering guidance algorithms similar to those used in Russia's 3M54 caliber cruise missile, the same type used in Syria against ISIS and Ukrainian targets since 2022. Experts believe Yemen's arsenal had undergone a transformation aided by foreign technology, possibly smuggled through Iran or directly supplied via Russian naval shipments in the Gulf of Aden. The attack signaled a new era of proxy warfare, one where regional players become global pawns, and Russia could test Western defenses without firing a single missile from its own territory. The Pentagon's investigation identified several code fragments embedded in missiles' digital architecture originating from Russian firmware, builds last updated in late 2024, suggesting recent collaboration. Geopolitical aftershocks. Washington on edge. Across Washington, the news hit like a thunderclap. Congressional leaders demanded an intelligence review, calling it Putin's proxy play. Military analysts on mainstream media debated whether this was Russia's way of stretching U.S. attention away from Eastern Europe, forcing America to divide its resources between Ukraine and the Middle East. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia and the UAE went on high alert, intercepting unidentified drones along their coasts and redirecting air patrols. Yemen's Houthi faction celebrated, claiming they had struck a symbol of American arrogance in the Red Sea. But behind closed doors, intelligence agencies now agree that without external help, the strike would have been impossible to coordinate or execute. That's the bombshell Washington didn't expect inside the command chain. Operation Storm of Faith. Declassified snippets from intercepted Yemeni communications suggested the operation had been codenamed Storm of Faith. Involving a small elite team trained outside the country, satellite images traced their movements to a coastal training site near Al-Hudaydah, equipped with radar systems not previously known to exist in Yemen. Experts point to Russia's Wagner successor networks, which re-emerged across Africa and the Middle East following their reorganization in 2024. The timing aligns perfectly for Washington. The realization hit hard. Russia wasn't just aiding Yemen, they were embedding themselves strategically at choke points critical to world trade. The strategic calculus control of the RDSEA, the Red Sea, is not just another body of water, it's the artery connecting Europe, Asia, and Africa. Every oil shipment, every container vessel crossing Suez relies on it. And whoever controls its choke points holds leverage over global trade by enabling Yemen to strike U.S. assets. Moscow signals that no sea lane is safe from its reach, not the Black Sea, not the Mediterranean, not the Red Sea. The geopolitical map just shifted. And Washington knows it. International response, diplomatic fallout. The United Nations called an emergency session. Britain, France, and Germany joined the U.S. in condemning the strike, yet Moscow's ambassador to the UN dismissed the accusations, calling them Western hysteria. China's response was carefully worded, urging restraint and dialogue. While secretly increasing its naval presence near Djibouti, Iran praised Yemen's right to defend itself, further complicating the regional balance. The result, a diplomatic minefield with no easy off-ramp. The Pentagon's countermove striking back in cyberspace. By day 3, U.S. Central Command deployed an additional carrier group to the Gulf of Aden. Surveillance drones filled the skies and cyber teams began targeting suspected Russian linked servers across the Middle East. Washington's retaliation wasn't kinetic, yet it was informational, flooding the airwaves with satellite images and intelligence leaks designed to expose Russia's fingerprints, a psychological counterstrike meant to put Putin on defense. Putin's message calculated defiance. Then came the Kremlin's first statement, Putin himself appearing before the Russian Duma declaring that Russia stands with nations resisting Western dominance. A veiled acknowledgement of involvement without confirming anything directly. The message was clear: Russia could open new fronts anywhere, anytime. The balance of power had officially shifted. The future of AR and missile warfare. Military think tanks warned that this incident could mark the dawn of distributed proxy missile warfare, where smaller nations serve as launch platforms for great power confrontation. The implications for NATO are severe, defending multiple regions simultaneously with unpredictable threats from states armed by Moscow or Beijing. The era of predictable warfare is over. Closing the fallout and what comes next as Washington recalibrates and Moscow watches. The world sits on edge. The echoes of the Red Sea strike are still reverberating. The next moves will define whether this remains a regional flashpoint or the start of a new Cold War in the skies and seas of 21st century. This has been Skies of Conflict, your window into the battles shaping tomorrow's world of air power and strategy. Stay subscribed, stay alert. The next flashpoint may already be in motion.